All right, so I finally finished the Hyper. It went pretty smooth for the most part, but there are a few things you're going to want to know if you get this. So, the dynamite engine that I was originally planning on installing in here wasn't going to work because of the pull start assembly. The pull start assembly on it had also a roto start on it, and it was a lot taller and it stuck out below the bottom of the engine. And because of that, I wasn't able to mount the motor in here. So I had to get a different motor. And I also had to get a starter box for it, which, in all honesty, is definitely the way to go. It's a lot cleaner, and you don't have a pull starter smacking around on everything. But other than that, pretty good. I am pretty happy with how it came out. Um, Overall, it was a pretty easy thing to do, especially because it came as an 80% kit. But the couple of things that you're going to want to know before you go ahead and get one of these, let me get the body off of it here. I love how easy that comes off. Some of them are a lot harder than others, but that one comes off pretty easy. So here it is. Still got a little bit of cleaning up to do with this. I got to figure out where this actually has to be routed. It doesn't really say all that well, but couple of things you're going to want to do with this that I found helpful. And it just took a little bit of time to figure this kind of stuff out to actually get it to run. So everything over here has been pretty good. This engine is sweet. This is an SH.21. I think it's called an XB1 torque. It's an 8-port motor, and it was under $200, and it is awesome. I got the 6th tank through it, so it's pretty awesome. The fuel tank, even though there's fuel in it, once it gets down to about the level that it is here, I don't know if you can see that, but once it gets down to about that level, you're going to want to go ahead and fill it back up because it starts to run really lean once it gets to that point. However, this right here, the amount of fuel that you're going to get for runtime is basically a little bit longer than the tank that is in my low C. So that's cool. Let me flip this around real quick. So one of the things that I had an issue with is this, and I'm still having an issue with it. Not necessarily an issue. I just don't know how to set up my linkages properly. Just something that I still am working on because my front brake, although it's fine here, I just don't think I have my throttle set up properly. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust that. You get the one that comes with this is a really cheap plastic servo horn for the steering. You don't want to use it. It's going to break on you when you go and take it out there, especially if you're doing some bashing, especially if you're doing anything hardcore. You do not want to use that. This ProTech 25 tooth servo works. It doesn't hit anything. It's got clearance. It's perfectly fine. So go ahead and get one of these. It's only like $10 to get one. And it's way better than the one that they give you. Trust me, there's no way that you can use that in a competition. You might be able to get away with it for a little while, but eventually you're going to have to go ahead and get rid of that. The other thing I don't like is this air filter is really big. There was a guy who had one of these before, and he put on the low C filter that's actually on the RTR buggy I have now. So I will probably end up doing the same thing and just making it work out like that, because that seems like it's a much better way to go. This dual servo horn right here, they do not explain exactly how you want to go ahead and set this up in the manual, and I gotta be honest, there's definitely a better way to do this. But I'm going to test out a couple of things. I've got an associated dual servo horn that's a 25 tooth, and it looks like it should work here, but we're going to find out if that's the case. So what I did was, it's got these little tiny screws on top, those little tiny Phillips screws right there. So those two screw into this. There's no lock nut or anything on it. Just screws right in, and they want that to hold here and to support the brakes. Okay, that is not going to work. Immediately, even just screwing it in, it already started to split at the very end. So what I did was I super glued it with some of the glue I use for my wheels, and I screwed it in together, and it is solid as a rock. So if you're gonna get this, do that. Trust me, save yourself the headache later, and just super glue it together after you screw it together, and it will not budge at all. It's way more sturdy. And make sure you have your endpoint set properly so you're not stripping out this servo horn. Like I said, I'm gonna try the associated servo horn, and we're gonna see where that gets us. These are the ZOS K 35 kilogram Pro servos. They're coreless. They're not brushless, but they're coreless servos. I don't know if that means that they're brushless or not, but it's pretty cool, and it worked out pretty well. I still need to go and get the right switch. So there's that. The battery goes in here. It's actually pretty big. It won't fit the longer ones. You still probably want to use the hump pack style or something like that, and save some of the foam you get from the packaging, so that way you can put it in here and make sure it doesn't move around that much. Other than that, this whole deal, breaking everything in, getting it going, it was phenomenal. It's super fast. This engine is super fast. The gearing it comes with is perfect. It's like, I don't know how they do it, but they were able to somehow get the low end with the mid range and the top end at the same time. I don't know if it has to do with just that motor being extremely strong, or if that has to do with the gearing here, but super awesome. Everything looks really beefy. I kind of like this, how it's got a little bit of a curve on it. It's a little different. It's not the same old thing, and it seems to be a lot more thick than the one that's on the Losi, that's for sure. So there's that. You can see, let me turn it here. Don't want to knock off my body. You can see the thickness. Just look at the sheer thickness of this. This is like twice the thickness of what the Losi RTR buggy is. I don't know if the TLR or any of the other kits, I don't know, that they seem to be pretty beefy. They all seem to be really beefy and really good quality, but this one is just thick. I don't expect it to break an arm anytime soon, but it does have the plastic hinge pin braces here. At least that's what it looks like. I know there's a metal piece right here, but I do believe that this bumper is what holds the hinge pin in place. The shock towers are pretty thick. You can see how thick they are. This is all how it comes from the factory. I don't know if they're 3 or 4 millimeters thick, but it looks like the rear shock tower is a little bit thicker than the front. Maybe it's just me. Maybe they're both the same exact size. But they look really good. The wing screws in on the top, so you don't have to worry about putting pins in it and doing all that stuff. I don't know if I have to keep the antenna this long. I would imagine that this is just going to break and get snapped off at some point, especially if I'm jumping at the track, because I am not that great, so I flip over. I really don't want to ruin this cooling head, but hey, you know, if I have to get another engine at some point later on down the road, I will. This engine was extremely difficult to get started because of how much compression it had. And since I'm a noob, I did not know that I should probably go ahead and heat it up with a heat gun before I decided to start it on my starter box. So take the advice. Don't just try to rush into it and get eager and try to start it. Make sure that when you do go forward with the break-in procedure, you heat gun this engine, or any good engine, heat gun it, and then try to start it with your starter box. Because what ended up happening to me is that the starter box did not want to really grab this wheel, and I burned through a starter box wheel. Thank God there were more starter box wheel replacements at Mike's Hobbies. The other thing that you're going to notice with this is that if you're going to use a starter box, the knurling on the flywheel is not very aggressive. So the starter box wheel has a hard time grabbing it. It seems like on the other flywheels, on most of the other nitro cars that the pro guys use, the knurling is a little bit more evident. And on this one, it's literally kind of flat. So I would imagine that that's probably part of the reason as to why that happened. But After I got the first couple of tanks in, haven't had an issue with that since. I did have to like use some pliers to turn the engine over once it hit top dead center at the pinch, and then get it back down so it could have a little bit of a rotation before it stopped. So other than that, so far so good. The only other thing that I noticed was that, and I don't know if I have this set properly, but the toe, I believe it's called toe. When I got this kit, like this wheel was pointed that way and this wheel was pointed that way. So I moved my turnbuckles here to kind of straighten it out. And I do think I need to push them in like one more turn on each side to get them to line up properly. But it handles great so far. I did not have to mess with the back. The back seems fine. The damping seems really good. I know it's kind of hard to tell for you guys because you're not here with me, but it seems really good. It's not bad at all. The exhaust pipe clamp I'm not a fan of. And I'm assuming I'm probably going to grab a different exhaust at some point because I want something a little bit better. But for now, this is going to go ahead and work. The flange itself has these little tabs that kind of go over the exhaust pipe. But the problem with it is where they welded the header right here, you can't really get it to sit properly. I don't know if I just got a header that maybe wasn't welded all that great, but I would imagine since they're just mass produced, that's probably just how they are. So yeah, other than that, I would definitely give this about an 8 out of 10 so far. I'm not a professional, so you can't really take what I say seriously, but I would give it about an 8 out of 10. It's not all that bad. It looks pretty good. It's not a terrible looking buggy. Let me see if I can get the body on here. It's very easy to work on. It's not difficult at all. They definitely don't cut this out for you enough, because if I push it all the way down, you can see that it hits the top of that, and then the fuel line right here is like not necessarily doing anything bad, but it's definitely touching the body. Definitely a little bit chonky, but not bad. It's not like it's heavier than any of the other buggies. It's might be a little bit heavier than the Losi, but other than that, it's not really too bad. You can see how cool it looks. Kind of looks like a lifted F1 car a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and try it out at the track and see what happens, and I'll let you guys know. I really got to get some running footage of this thing, but I haven't gotten any running footage of anything yet. I don't really have a setup. I just want people to know. I know right now in the current moment in time in the world, there's a lot of economic struggle, and I am grateful to just have the things that I have. And I know that some people who have the ability to get into something like this so that they can escape the monotony of everyday life and just kind of wondering what's going to happen next, this is something that can help get you out of it. That, and I'm injured right now, so I can't even go back to work if I wanted to. And trust me, I definitely want to get back out in the field because, sitting on my bum isn't the best thing I'd like to do. But other than that, enough about me. This car has been wonderful so far. So once I take it to the track, I'll let you guys know durability-wise how it is. I'm sure I'm going to crash a couple of times. I'm sure it's going to take a couple of beatings. I really don't want to scratch up this beautiful cooling head, but I know that if I get scared about it, scratching it, it's going to happen even worse than I expected to. So I got to just go and drive it like I would with my Losi and just kind of send it here. Yeah, other than that, for $350, we're going to find out how good this is. Stay tuned, and I'll let you know if this thing is worth your money. There's only a couple of them left on the Hobao website, so if you want one, you'd better get one of these ones quickly. Like there's like no slop. There's no slop. This is just flexing some of the plastic in there. There's no slop on that. Look at this. There's no slop on this steering. No slop. There's a little bit of slop on my Losi, but this one has no slop. It hasn't really been run all that much yet, so I'm sure there's going to be some after the first couple of times it's run. But as it comes out of the box, as it sits right now, there's no slop in it. The suspension feels good. The damping feels good. The diffs feel good. Everything feels really good. So if you like this buggy, you're thinking about getting a kit, but you know you can't afford it, and you know it's bad for you, you may want to take a look at this and see if it's any good for you. I will go ahead and try it out and let you know how it goes for me. I think it'll do just fine, but only time will tell. So other than that, it was great to talk to you guys again. If you guys have any questions, any tips, please let me know. I'm always looking to learn more about the hobby. But thank you guys for watching.